Thank you, Chief Secretary and members of the Fourth Estate. Cabinet considered and approved the National Energy Efficiency Policy as presented by the Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Honorable Professor Mthuli Ncube, who is also the Chairman of the Cabinet Committee on National Development Planning. The overall goal of the National Energy Efficiency Policy is to institute energy efficiency programs in order to promote sustainable development as the country transitions to an upper middle income society in line with the objectives of Vision 2030. The policy is built on the principles of development, sustainability, affordability, accessibility, gender equality, and employment creation. The objectives that will be employed to stimulate energy efficiency are as follows: to promote and ensure a comprehensive, integrated and well-informed energy efficiency strategy for effective socio-economic development, to establish the roles and responsibilities for implementing various energy efficiency initiatives and interventions in the country, and to provide a framework for setting targets relating to various energy efficiency interventions in the residential, commercial, mining, transport, agriculture, and industrial sectors. Cabinet advises that the government of Zimbabwe shall develop an Energy Efficiency Act and appropriate regulations, as well as a National Energy Efficiency Strategy and Action Plan, which will assist in the achievements of low carbon development modalities and climate resilient energy efficient systems. Furthermore, mandatory energy efficiency audits conducted by approved and certified energy auditors shall be prescribed. Minimum energy performance standards and regulations will also be established and developed for selected energy end users. The government shall mandate intensive energy users and encourage other industrial users to be certified by a recognized energy management standard, such as the energy management systems. The Minister of Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage, Honorable Kazembe Kazembe, presented a proposal for hosting the Eastern and Southern Africa Regional Branch of the International Council of Archives, which was approved by Cabinet. The Minister of Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage informed Cabinet that Zimbabwe was requested to host the Eastern and Southern Africa Regional Branch of the International Council of Archives in 2025. The conference is held biannually on a rotational basis by member countries, with the objective of advancing archives management through regional cooperation. The decision to nominate Zimbabwe was largely informed by the success of the 2015 conference hosted by Zimbabwe in Victoria Falls. A total of 600 delegates are expected to attend the conference. The benefits to be accrued from hosting the conference include the following: the marketing of Zimbabwe as a prime tourism destination, increased foreign currency earnings from delegates from the 24 member countries, and the provision of €5,000 by the International Council of Archives to assist with the hosting of the conference. Cabinet received a presentation from the Minister of Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage, Honorable Kazembe Kazembe, on the principles to amend and strengthen the Firearms Act, Chapter 10.09, which was approved. The amendments seek to regulate the registration and licensing of firearms and the establishment of a firearms database and registry. The amendment bill will make provision for the classification of firearms certificates to differentiate those issued to individuals and juristic persons. The amendments will also seek, among other things, to introduce psychological and training tests before one is issued with a firearms certificate, place age restriction on possession of firearms, to regulate the number of firearms per person and the purpose, to provide for the profiling of all firearms for purposes of ease identification and tracing thereof, and to specify the penalties for firearm offenses, including the failure to properly secure firearms. Cabinet considered and approved the proposed priority projects for the third 100-day cycle of 2024 as presented by the Minister of Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, Honorable Ziambi, on behalf of the Minister of State for Presidential Affairs and Devolution in the Office of the President and Cabinet. A total of 192 projects were submitted for implementation under the third 100-day cycle of 2024, which commenced on the 4th of September 2024 and scheduled to end on the 13th of December 2024. The disaggregation of the projects by province is as follows: Harare Metropolitan Province 75, Mashonaland East 57 projects, Bulawayo Metropolitan Province 42 projects, Mashonaland West 60 projects, Mashingo 56 projects, Mashonaland Central 57 projects, Midlands Province 58 projects, Matabeleland North 59 projects, Manicaland Province 63 projects, Matabeleland South 50 projects. Some of the projects were replicated at different sites across provinces under the image building, international engagement and re-engagement pillar. Projects on the rehabilitation of infrastructure at foreign missions is being prioritized and distributed as follows: Nigeria 3, Germany 1, United Kingdom 1, Rwanda 1, South Africa 1, and Kenya 1. The 192 projects are clustered according to the 14 thematic areas of the National Development Strategy 1 as follows: Devolution and Decentralization, 12 projects; the Digital Economy, 12 projects; Economic Growth and Stability, 17 projects; Environmental Protection, Climate Resilience and Natural Resources Management, 6 projects; Governance, 21 projects; Health and Well-being, 7 projects; Housing Delivery, 8 projects; Human Capital Development and Innovation, 16 projects; Image Building, International Engagement and Re-engagement, 12 projects; Infrastructure and Utilities, 37 projects; Moving the Economy Up the Value Chain and Structural Transformation, 21 projects; Social Protection, 10 projects; Youth, Sport and Culture, 13 projects; Food and Nutrition Security, 12 projects. These projects have been included in totals of the respective thematic areas they contribute to, since they are cross-cutting in nature. The Special Advisor to the President on monitoring implementation of government programs will continue to monitor the projects also utilizing the executive electronic dashboard in collaboration with the Ministers of State for Provincial Affairs and Devolution. Cabinet received and noted a report on the visit to South Africa to officially open the 12th Annual Conference of Speakers of African National and Regional Parliaments, the Pan-African Parliament, on the 18th of September 2024, as presented by the Honorable Vice President, Comrade KCD Mohadi. Cabinet advises that on the 18th of September 2024, the Honorable Vice President, Comrade KCD Mohadi, delivered a keynote address to mark the official opening of the 12th Annual Conference of Speakers of Parliament. In his keynote address, the Vice President called upon Pan-African Parliament to engage debates on the rising conflicts and insecurity of the continent, and to engage debates on how to expedite the deployment of science and technology and innovation to deal with challenges facing Africa today, and highlighted that none but ourselves will create the political and socio-economic environment we want as Africans, and to scale up advocacy for women and youth's development. The Vice President had also highlighted the fact that the government of Zimbabwe had successfully hosted the 44th Summit of SADC Heads of State and Government in August 2024, with support from both the region and the African Union. Cabinet received a report on the state visit to Mexico by the Honorable Vice President, Comrade KCD Mohadi, for the inauguration of the United Mexican State President-elect Ms. Claudia Sheinbaum, as presented by the Honorable Vice President. The nation is informed that the Honorable Vice President had attended the inauguration of the United Mexican States on the 1st of October 2024 at the Legislative Palace in the Mexico City on His Excellency the President Dr. Idi Mnangagwa's behalf. The inauguration was attended by more than 100 foreign delegations, 16 of which were all at the heads of state and government level, mostly from the Americas region. Part of the deliberations revealed that there is need for economic cooperation between Zimbabwe and the United Mexican States, and that there is great need to identify areas of bilateral cooperation. It was also highlighted that the United Mexican States economy is expanding rapidly and would benefit from Zimbabwe's mineral resources, especially rare earth minerals, and also working together in order to reap the benefits accruing from the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. In terms of industry, the nation is informed that the United Mexican States is advanced in motor vehicle and general manufacturing, agriculture, oil and iron and steel, and therefore Zimbabwe can tap into the vast knowledge in order to improve, especially focusing on technology transfer modalities. Cabinet further advises that the administration will adopt a whole of Africa approach in its diplomatic thrust. The visit provided a foundation for kickstarting engagement and mutually beneficial cooperation in many sectors of the economy in which the United Mexican States has made achievements. Cabinet received and noted a report on the attendance of the celebration of the bicentenary and the 58th independence celebration of the Kingdom of Lesotho on the 4th of October 2024 in Maseru in Lesotho. as presented by the Honorable Vice President, Comrade KCD Mohali. The Honorable Vice President represented His Excellency the President, Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa, at the celebrations to mark 200 years of the founding of the Basotho nation by King Moshoeshoe I and the 58th anniversary of Lesotho's independence on the 4th of October 2024. The celebrations, which were held under the theme Birth, Reflection, Revival, acknowledged the generational achievements of the Basotho nation. A significant milestone was the celebration of the birth and journey of Lesotho from 1824 to date, and most importantly, the celebration of the legacy of King Moshoeshoe I. In his speech, the Vice President congratulated the people of the Kingdom of Lesotho on significant milestones and reiterated that Zimbabwe and Lesotho enjoyed historic, cordial, and fraternal ties that were consolidated during the period of our liberation struggle. In his speech, His Majesty King Letsie III expressed gratitude for the support that Lesotho is getting from neighboring countries in its quest for a better economic and political environment. Cabinet approved as follows that Joint Permanent Commission on Cooperation as a legal framework to guide cooperation between Zimbabwe and Lesotho be put in place in the second quarter of 2025. That the Ministries of Sports, Recreation, Arts and Culture, and Tourism and Hospitality Industry exchange high-level visits to the cultural village of Basotho so that they can implement it in Zimbabwe, and also working together with the Basotho senior government officials on a framework that is going to attract tourism as a business. That Zimbabwe engages the Lesotho government relating to the initiation of an MOU in potential areas of cooperation. Cabinet considered and noted a report on the inaugural annual Africa Peace and Security Dialogue held in Gauteng, South Africa from the 4th to the 6th of October 2024 as presented by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade. Cabinet advises that the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade attended the Thabo Mbeki Foundation inaugural annual Peace and Security Dialogue that was held in Gauteng, South Africa from the 4th to the 6th of October 2024. The dialogue was held under the theme Towards a Peaceful and Secure Africa, Challenges and Opportunities. The objective of the annual Peace and Security Dialogue was to address the critical peace and security challenges facing the continent with a special focus on the Sahel region and the Horn of Africa. Cabinet considered the report on the Zambia-Zimbabwe bilateral consultative meeting held in Livingstone, Zambia on the 18th of October 2024 as presented by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, Honorable Professor Amon Murwira. The ministerial session of the bilateral consultative meeting, which was attended by the Zambian Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation and Zimbabwe's Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, together with Zimbabwe and Zambia's ambassadors and senior government officials. The meeting discussed matters of mutual interest with the view to preserving and consolidating the excellent bilateral relations that have always existed between the countries. Cabinet wishes to reiterate that the relations between the two countries remain strong and excellent as ever. I thank you. can Zimbabwe enhance its regional peace and security with respect to the dialogue that was held in Johannesburg, in Gauteng, South Africa? Over to you, Minister.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mkudzei. As you would know that according to the Constitution of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Section 12 of Chapter 2, Zimbabwe must endeavor always to have peaceful coexistence with its neighbors, near and far. For us to be able to create the objective of a society that is prosperous, that is happy, and which has dignity. This can only happen when our relations with our neighbors, immediate and far, are good. Therefore, a peace and security conference, which was hosted by the Thabo Mbeki Foundation in South Africa, is one of the ways in which we project this image and make Zimbabwe be a participant in peaceful organizations. And again, if you look at the founding principles of the Foreign Affairs of Zimbabwe, we are encouraged to be part of organizations that encourage peace and tranquility in the world. So indeed, this meeting and other meetings, because Honorable Minister Mswere has just talked about the meeting, that consultative meeting that we had with the Republic of Zambia between 17 and 18 in Livingstone, Zambia. The Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Zambia and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Zimbabwe with me. We were mandated to have a consultative meeting according to our MOU of 2010 by their Excellencies President Idi Mnangagwa and President Hichilema, to make sure that we maintain this dialogue and make sure that our relations remain strong and excellent in the interest and in the process of making sure that we live in peace and harmony with our neighbors near and far. So indeed, all these meetings and all these organizations like the Peace Dialogue in South Africa help to strengthen the Zimbabwe's foreign policy that is enshrined in Section 12 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe. I thank you.
Chairman, and thank you very much to the journalists who posed the question. Energy stakeholders in the development of the policy have already been consulted and they've made their input. But however, we'll continue to engage and make improvements on the policy. The next stage of development now is energy efficiency standards. These standards will be benchmarked against already established standards elsewhere, and these standards are going to be designed for each or related industries. For example, domestic, industrial, commercial, mining, and so forth. So they're going to be stratified along related sectors, so that there is uniformity within the sectors, and also there is adaptability to circumstances directly related to that industry. Now, to reduce bias, energy efficiency auditors and technicians are going to be put in place. We already have companies in the industry that deal with audits on energy efficiency, that are private players, and also technicians, some of which are going to be trained. To referee the whole program, we would want compliance to energy management systems For example, the ISO 50001, amongst other standards that are there in the sector, I think.
We now have more and more of our own national vernacular, our own local languages on the national broadcast. But it is also supported by the licensing framework, by the operations, by organograms in the organizational structure in terms of news broadcasting, which emphasizes that 75% should be local content. Local content in that each and every language should be included in national broadcasting programs. So the policy direction is that we want to make sure we're inclusive, that we leave no one and no place behind as we broadcast across the country. But also the licensing framework in terms of community radio stations that also support the same. So we are now developing an architecture which feeds also into community radio stations, so that each and every post-cabinet brief is also shared with the community radio stations, so that all our people are not left behind. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Transmission losses are about 18 to 20%. And the idea is to reduce them to below 10% through improved transmission technology as well as distribution of independent power producers right across the country. We will also consult the residential domestic sector, and the target there is to encourage them to do what you call fuel switching. Now, fuel switching involves moving away from firewood, for example, to gas and other less polluting sources of fuel, efficient lighting. For instance, something as simple as we walk into this room and the switch turns on automatically as you walk into the room. Once you are done with the room, it is able to detect that when you are in the room, it ought to stay on. The moment you leave the room and close the door, the switch cuts off completely. So you don't worry about switching on and off, therefore you save power that way. So those kind of behavioral issues at the domestic level is what we're consulting. We'll consult the stakeholders on. The other stakeholders are, of course, industry. The issue is that some industrialists are using very old equipment, which is not fuel efficient, not energy efficient, and therefore we need to encourage them to upgrade their equipment to more efficient technology, energy efficient technology. The same applies to the mining sector or even the agricultural sector, using more efficient users of energy for irrigation, for example. In the transport sector, you can imagine there the big issues about EV cars and switching to battery technology for terms of e-mobility. That's the issue. I'm sure the fuel suppliers won't want us to do that too quickly. They provide lots of jobs, but that's the conversation when we move this conversation forward in terms of energy efficiency. Our targets, of course, is, as we said, is to reduce, rather improve energy efficiency and savings by as much as 15% right across the economy. For manufacturing sector, our target is 20%, so we'll engage them so that we can reach this target. For mining, our target again is 20% savings. For the commercial sector, 5%, agricultural sector, 15%. As I said, overall savings should be 15%. So only an engagement process can give us this kind of targets in terms of savings. That's where we are headed. And we know other countries have benefited from this kind of targeted sector strategy and consultation. Thank you very much, Chair.
Now the question of IPPs and how energy efficiency benefits them. I think when you're talking of energy efficiency, you are looking at the end user on how efficient energy is being used, whether they're conserving or they're being wasteful. So the question of IPPs then does not directly arise, but then it comes in as a measure to save on the use of energy in the country. Let me just give you an example of, say, industry. You find that currently we are using about 10 megajoules per purchase price parity of GDP when the regional average is 3.4 megajoules. So that means we are wasting a lot of energy through the use of inefficient energy appliances. So our consultative process is going to look at that transformation to more energy efficient equipment in the sector. Now, coming closer to the question of IPPs and the issue of tariffs. Now, the determination of tariffs for the benefit of the developer or of the IPP is a function of a discussion between themselves and the off-taker. So who is going to buy their power? They agree through a power purchase agreement. And that power purchase agreement is then registered with ZERA, the regulator, so that it is then taken up. And that's how they come in. And if they're not happy with the PPA, normally they would also even find another off-taker who could be a mine or another private company who could be amenable to their proposed tariff. So really, it becomes a bilateral matter in terms of the PPA, but of course guided by the national tariff architecture. The issue of net metering, first of all, that is designed to ensure that those who are generating on rooftops also can deposit extra energy into the national grid. So it's a kind of banking arrangement where if there is excess power being generated on that rooftop, it goes onto the national grid. If there is no power, because sometimes you find that because of the nature of the intermittent nature of solar, sometimes when it is rainy, it is cloudy, it is that kind of thing, not much is generated. They can benefit their banked power from the national grid. So the target really of energy efficiency is to curtail wastage of energy. And like the Minister of Finance indicated, we are wasting in excess of 15% on average of our energy, which goes on to waste. So the policy is intended to curtail that so that we derive maximum benefit of available energy for maximum use by the country. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, our Chairman. Allow me to also thank the journalist who asked such a pertinent question. There are a lot of reasons that have caused us to revisit the Act, and one of them being that this Act has been in existence since 1957. You can imagine, that's a long time ago. And a lot has changed in between, so it's no longer consistent with the current trends. And in fact, some of the terms in that Act are no longer consistent with what is obtaining at the moment. And also, some of the firearms, new firearms, are not defined in the old Act. And there are also a lot of gaps that we've identified that need to be closed. And we are also a signatory to a number of international protocols and conventions. So we need to amend our Act so that it's consistent and it speaks to those conventions. Some of the examples of the gaps that we've identified are that the current Act allows a person as young as 16 years old to possess a gun. And we believe a 16-year-old is not mature enough to be in possession of a gun. We believe we need to up that age to a certain acceptable age. We are thinking of 21 years. We are still discussing, but we certainly believe 16 years for a 16-year-old to move around with a gun it's not proper. And the other issue that we've also identified is that the current Act, the tenure or the duration of the license is 3 years without revisiting in between. We also believe that needs to be addressed, because you would agree with me that the circumstances under which one can be given a fire license can change within 3 years. For starters, probably mentally you're no longer the same person, but you still hold on to that gun. Or maybe when you were given the gun, you were so loaded with a lot of businesses and you had to protect yourself, but maybe you are now broke, you've been liquidated, so you no longer need the gun. So those are some of the examples of the gaps that we need to close. And then also we have realized that there was no limit to the number of guns one can have for using one license. And also we need categories. When you're getting a license, we need to be sure what you're getting that license for. And we need to then continuously check if you're using that gun for that license for which you applied. Because some they apply for hunting, some for self-defense, some for protection of their cash and whatever. So those, we believe we should have different categories of those licenses. And also in the new act will also include provisions that will allow us to deploy technologies to manage or profile rather the firearms and ammunition, among other things. And also we want to also make it mandatory that you are tested, that you are fit to have a gun psychologically. Are you mentally fit? You have to be tested. And also you have to be tested, you have to get minimum training of handling a firearm. So we're doing all this to try and make sure that only those who deserve to have firearms are given licenses. At the moment, every Jack and Jill may have access to a license, to a fire license. And this, to a certain extent, may have resulted in so many guns that we have lying around. So we need to deal with that issue. We need to make sure that only those who deserve to have firearms licenses have the firearms. So these are some of the many reasons that have caused this to happen. I thank you.